range. 3-point range. Shoot your shot. Get that hot. Jump so high. Touch the sky. With a bet on that. No sweat. 3-point range.
And welcome to 3-Point Range. Coming at you sort of live from Chapel Hill, alongside the prospect Shelby Swanson and the scout Kimball Crossley. This is the Professor Tim Crothers. What a interesting moment to be podcasting. We're in the midst of this crazy football coaching search here at UNC, and
Yes.
and just moments ago there was a report, kind of sketchy, but a report that confirmed that Bill Belichick would be our next football coach. I still have my doubts. We're going to treat it as if it's still
Ollie Connolly,
right, whoever that is. So we're going to be treating this basically as if it's still the limbo situation we've been in for the last couple of days here. But definitely an interesting thing that we've all been watching, and if anything happens during the podcast, we'll certainly update. But that said, we will move straight to our first point, and the scout will launch us. Go ahead, Scout.
let's get it.
Okay, well, you didn't mention really. I think that this is our holiday show because I guess we're probably going to take a few weeks off.
Yeah, this has been really strenuous. So
For the holidays.
We need a break.
yeah, I need to.
But I want to tell you that even though it's our holiday show, I'm a bit down.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It's over, fellow Tar Heels. It's definitely over. So what I'm talking about is more than 50 years of basketball excellence. And, we've had some ups and downs, but for the most part, Tar Heel basketball has remained at or near the top of the pyramid in terms of basketball programs. But I really think the dynasty is done.
Oh,
Tar Heel basketball will never be the same. Now look, I'm not just saying this because the current team is struggling at 5-4. It's not about that. That's really depressing, but that's not it. And it's not just because the last couple of weeks have been particularly awful with a few of those losses.
It's been some bad ball.
It's been bad, yes, but it's not because of that, and it's not even because I don't think Hubert Davis is the man for the job, because I'm not sure. I think he still might be the man for the job, and that's despite the fact that he has gone too far. We've talked on the show before about how he did a nice job transitioning the Tar Heels to the way the game is now, more of a perimeter game, and we used to be this total dominant inside team for probably 50 years. We could go through all the post players we've had for 40, 50 years, and it's been a pretty remarkable group. And all of a sudden, we have about the worst collection of inside players you could watch, which is part of why this team is really struggling right now, because you still need that even in this perimeter world. And I say that even though part of me wants to be wrong. I love the Tar Heels. I've loved them since I went to North Carolina.
Where are we going with this, Scout?
I'll tell you.
Where's the point?
Even though I want Jalen Washington to step up, and something in some fan of me believes he can, because I thought he showed some potential in the past, and he's been god awful, and they've moved past him. It looks like in so many games, and it's not just what happened with the ACC SEC challenge, which occurred last week, where, for those who don't know,
wasn't much of a challenge, but
the SEC won 14 out of the 16 games. I mean, that was just outrageous, embarrassing. But I think, and as I move to the point, it's this.
Okay, I'm ready for it.
I don't think tradition matters anymore in college basketball. Part of what made North Carolina so good is the recruiting always relied on tradition. You knew that, like, it was a great selling point. Hey, all you have to do is look at the past, all the successes we've had. And they're not the only program that had that. But, of course, they were one of the top, one of the blue bloods. And I think what's really happened here is traditional programs are not going to be able to rely on that anymore. You know why? And you guys probably know why. NIL. And so
Let's talk.
going back to the ACC SEC challenge, when SEC has had some success in basketball, we still think of it as a football conference, and for them to destroy the ACC like that, just embarrass them and win 14 out of 16 games. But I don't know if you guys know these numbers. You guys are a little clued in. Maybe you do. But do you realize that there's estimates that the SEC had the higher price roster in at least 13 of those games, 13 out of those 16 games? And we don't really have all the figures and who gets paid what or whatever, how it works. But that really struck me, and that's like why this is going to be the case. That you can sell a program on your tradition, and you can say, I'm Duke, I'm UCLA, I'm North Carolina. But when you say, hey, I'm Alabama, who cares if we've ever won a national championship, if the last time was in the 40s or 50s or whenever it was? Here's this amount of dough, and they're going to go there. And so I really think that's going to be a big concern, especially when, the reports I've read is that the ACC just won't ever have that kind of revenue that the SEC has. It's not one of the
not
top
until the 2040s, probably.
Yeah,
We're looking at straight TV contracts.
Yeah.
Revenue, yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm really afraid that it's over. But, of course, I am going to take solace in one thing. As you mentioned, for years, UNC has been a joke football program. I really have never cared. But now, my new favorite coach, Bill Belichick,
you knew that name would come up.
This is actually
just couldn't resist.
This is the worst thing that could have happened to the pod.
Oh
this
my
man,
God.
there's no excuse for him to talk about anything other.
Now Kimball has an excuse to talk about Bill Belichick for the next 17 pods.
It's just going to be amazing. And Bill Belichick it looks like he's going to be our football coach, which makes the football program so relevant. And look, I win either way. If he elevates the football program, and he is a great coach, I've never said he's not a great coach, but it wouldn't hurt me if he failed. It'd be kind of fun, to root against that sourpuss. But this is so exciting, and it's the only thing that gives me solace for the fact that our Tar Heel basketball program may have finally fallen.
All right, here's what does not give me solace about this, I will say. And I'm going to focus more on just the Bill Belichick side of things, right? Okay. Despite all I think that's been said about just what's gone on, behind the scenes at UNC and the launch of Carolina NIL and, we're all on the same page now. We're all on the same accord. Okay. When you combine just, no offense, but like the complete just roster building mismanagement that went on over the past off season in terms of UNC's complete inability to find any, qualified post players in the portal. Number one, just the difficult, and again, let's wrap our heads around the history of UNC and everything it's built itself on in terms of dominating the boards, right? The kind of two big man, system playing inside out, right? For UNC to struggle to find a big man in the portal, and then you follow that up with, again, all this kind of boasting about, we have our NIL ordeals in order and everything's in place for, we just have to, get Mac out of the way and find this new head coach. If you talk to like anybody who's anywhere around or involved in this process, this should have been settled by Sunday. It's Tuesday, and I see that I know we're monitoring X, maybe something has happened as I'm literally speaking, but still nothing has been officially announced, and the football transfer portal opened yesterday. Okay, and part of this, what you're seeing play out, and I'm getting into kind of the politics behind it, but is just a long-standing rift between the board of trustees and anybody outside of that, like the board of trustees and the donors camp versus, Cunningham, and previously it was Kevin Guskiewicz, and I think they're going to run UNC's athletic director, Bubba Cunningham, out of town. the same way that Kevin Guskowitz just didn't want to put up with this stuff. I mean, I think that's really fueled the complications. Board members are meddling in the hiring process. They've gotten so, I don't know, just up, on their pedestal that you have literally, John Pryor, right, head of the board of trustees, pulling aside my colleague, Chip Alexander, right, after the Mac Brown retirement press conference, just airs grievances about this is ridiculous and, Bubba should have flown back from Hawaii and done this in person. It's just ridiculous for him to treat Mac Brown like this. That friction, which is so apparent that, again, John Pryor, who, like, from a sports standpoint, most of us, like, shouldn't know his names, right, is pulling aside a reporter just to air grievances on the record, literally, like, to use my terminology, right, crashing out, right, after the Mac Brown presser. That friction extends into disagreements about UNC athletics resources, future investment levels, right, on the brink of revenue sharing. And I think what we're potentially looking at, and we'll see what happens with Belichick, but is a botched coaching search. And I understand, like, the excitement of bringing in, again, one of the greatest, NFL minds, right, to date. But this is a direct result of, Summerall at Tulane not wanting to come, right? Matt Campbell at Iowa State, he doesn't want to come. Bill Belichick, for all intents and purposes, was the, like, back burner candidate. This is my understanding of it, right? I think the first choice for a lot of donors and boosters who see, oh my gosh, think of, like, the media friends. I mean, think about, obviously, you've seen our excitement, right? Talking about Bill Belichick. But just a complete lack of college coaching experience. You're switching out one 73-year-old for another 73-year-old. And I don't think it's going to work. Like, I just don't see, no offense, but, like, Belichick's coaching style, right? And I think Cam Newton, like, made this point the other day. And also, Tom Brady, right? We talk about another Patriot turned, sudden media darling, right? Right? Like, NFL players just that have played for this guy saying, I don't think this is going to work. Think about, like, your 5-star recruit that's coming in here with a hot head and, Bill Belichick training him and, we didn't really want you to come, but yeah, we'll take you into the, like, no, it's not going to work.
Also, I like the Belichick impersonation, by the way.
I'm sorry. Thanks. I think, like, literally in terms of his ability to, like, connect with this day's player, this age demographic, the number one point on that resume might be his, like, 24-year-old girlfriend. But aside from that,
I wondered whether we were going to go there. Okay.
Like, I don't know. I think, and also, right, part of this issue that you're seeing, why this is taking so long, just financial constraints, differing expectations between Belichick and the school, and yeah, I mean, again, we may see the emergence at this point. And again, we're recording this podcast on Tuesday. I know that Army's Jeff Monken, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, that's been thrown out there. Steve Wilkes, former NFL coach, they've emerged. But I just think these timing issues have complicated matters. And even if you land on a Belichick, which, I had a donor tell me the other day that they think that the Bill Belichick hire would be a home run, even a grand slam. I just tend to disagree, because at the very best, you are hiring, again, a 73-year-old who literally is just super desperate to get back into coaching. You had all these other young up-and-coming college coaches turn you down. And then at the very worst, I just think the timing of this, the fact that it's taken so long, really speaks to the disconnect and the discord between, the supposed Carolina family that had figured everything out from a leadership and a financial standpoint. That is clearly not the case. And so I think regardless of how this shapes out, just the process and what has gone on behind the scenes, and more will come out about this, really scares me.
So Tim, are you going to push back on some of that, or
I
should
am.
I?
I am. Full disclosure, I'm all hopped up on Robitussin, so you can't really trust anything that I say.
I love that.
But I appreciate
Bring
the fact that Shelby broke it down at that level, because you guys might have to carry this podcast. I might keel over at any moment. But yeah, I mean, just to circle all the way back to your original point. All I can say about Carolina's basketball team is I guarantee you that Hubert Davis will never enter another season without a center. That was an oversight that I think
No, what do you? Hey, they have Van Allen Lubin. They have Cade Tyson. They have the guys they have.
Those aren't centers. And they I see where you're going with that. Okay. No,
they have Jalen Washington. They have Jalen with it. I don't know what you're talking about.
A five, somebody who's a 5.
Again, these are the guys they have.
I mean,
All right,
did we
Tim.
ever think? Did we ever think we would miss Armando Bacot this much?
Yes,
No,
100%.
absolutely.
I could have told you that in LA at the Sweet 16
There you go.
in March.
But yeah, as far as the Belichick situation, let's just call it what it is. UNC football. I don't ever see them really winning the national championship. We've been waiting since 1980 for them to win just an ACC championship. So they are what they are. And so I'm going to look at it as just, I want this to be fun. I want this to be fun. I want this to be I'm always looking for a good story, right? I'm a journalist. I'm looking for a good story.
Right.
Belichick is a good story. Is it the right thing to do? Probably not. But is it the fun thing to do? Absolutely. It's the fun thing to do, because is Summerall or the Iowa State guy, if they were hired, would the guys who are disgruntled on our current team and planning to transfer, would they stick around? No. Would all the interesting
Matt
recruits,
Campbell and what he's been able to do in terms of just not necessarily like the hot shot. I think what Campbell has built himself on in the Iowa State program is taking like the 3-star, the 4-star, turning them into a star. Like what he's able to do in terms of development. Again, like if you were smart, like yes, I as a player in terms of like a development standpoint would be really excited at Campbell.
Agreed, but are you on the UNC football team?
I am not.
No. What do you think Travis Shaw is thinking that way?
Look, Travis Shaw actually, and I'm glad that you brought that up.
Uh-oh.
He seems to maybe know something we don't, because cheesy_Trav18 2 hours ago actually posted the questioning monocle emoji to his Twitter. And so again, we're talking about, so-and-so has the scoop. We haven't seen the Schefter speak. I will not listen until Cheesy Trav speaks on this. Okay? That is the only voice I'm holding out for. So actually, you know what? But continue.
Bottom line is, I want it to be fun. And I think it could be a total disaster. I'm not even going to pretend that it won't be. But at least initially, if Bill Belichick walks in, we are the toast of college football. We're the center. We're the fun story, at least until next season starts. And I do believe that the Travis Shaws of the world will at least consider sticking around. And I do think that prospects that we would never, ever, ever have a chance to sign, some of them would sign just because this guy has won 6 friggin' Super Bowls. Even if that makes no sense, even if they're not thinking down the road about how hard it's going to be to deal with this curmudgeon 73-year-old dude, they're thinking this guy has won 6 Super Bowls. So for me, it's just the fun. I want the fun, because I don't aspire for Carolina football to be great. I've watched it for 40 years. I know they're not going to be great. But let's at least have them be fun.
Let me push back even bigger. And yes, part of this is I just think it's going to be fun. As I said, either way for me, it's going to be fun. But
well, we know how you feel about this.
Yeah.
But to add to it, I do really think North Carolina has to put itself on the map with football. And just hiring the next maybe good up and coming coach might, it doesn't seem like in college football that works, right? It
Larry
seems like
Fedora.
it seems like tradition and NIL money make power football programs. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, so, and usually the NIL money follows those traditional programs. And it doesn't feel like, you guys probably, you follow college football way more than I do, but you could probably prove me wrong about some guy that went to like some crap program and built it up into now it's this real thing. It feels like no, he goes to Ohio State, which was already, he had a great program and now it's even better. This guy goes to Alabama or whatever. I mean, it's not like they start over. And North Carolina has never had that, so that it needs a signature to put it on the map, even if it's briefly, because maybe that will start it. Then I want to also say he is a great teacher. Belichick is a great teacher. So you're wrong when you say like college football players will benefit from him because he teaches the game. And again, part of what I joke about, like how fun he's been to listen to as broadcaster. And part of that is you can hear the coach in him talking specific fundamentals. The Patriots, one of the things that made them really good was they were so sound fundamentally. Another thing that made him good is cheating. And cheating pays in college football. It pays. Just look at, wait, did we just have a national champion last year that did some little questionable stuff? And he'll cheat and they'll win. He'll go to those gray areas or beyond. And as far as the NIL money, I don't think he's going to be the guy handing out the dough. He's going to make sure that somebody, part of this process is probably saying like, hey, you better pony up the dough for these NIL guys. And I don't want to be going into kids' houses and handing them money. Let somebody else do that. Let my double secret spy boy do it, but I'm going to coach.
You mean his son?
Now the son's going to coach too, apparently.
Yeah.
The son's going to coach too.
Well, surely they're a package deal.
No, the Ernie Adams types, the people that like that you never hear about, like the cloak and dagger figures.
Connor
that
Stallion.
Are always, right. And so, and the last thing is he is, and this might be one thing that you don't buy is. He's talking about it being an NFL training ground, like, and that's part of his selling point. Is like I know how to prepare players to play in the league, and college kids, young kids are going to want to hear that. As Tim said, with the 6 Super Bowl champion, so I think there might be more to it than just the fun.
Well, in terms of again the structure and just teaching about the game, our guy Ollie Connolly again. This is no hate to Mr. Connolly. I was not aware of him before he broke this news, supposedly. So he said again in his thread on X about Belichick agreeing to become the next UNC coach. He said that Belichick handed the school a 400-page, quote, organizational Bible with structure, payment plans, staffing choices, etc., decisions on whether to commit with UNC. So I mean, he's breaking it down. Like, bring it, baby,
bring it, Bill.
this dude is all in. But I will say also, again, I know we're waiting for a Jonathan Jones or the Schefter, say even my buddy Andrew Carter, right, the N&O to break the news.
Out.
That being said though. Okay, really hard-hitting stuff from Ross Martin an hour ago, okay? Bill Belichick's girlfriend on Instagram is following UNC Chapel Hill, UNC football, and UNC football nutrition. So I've gotten that piece. Again, all I need now is the cheesy trap to weigh in, and then as far as I'm concerned, the news has been broken. So,
all right, to try to bring us back to reality a little bit, I will say that you're suggesting, Shelby, that the donors are behind Belichick.
Yes.
Well, wouldn't that be a good thing in terms of our potential NIL needs? I would just bring that up. And the other thing I'd bring up real quick, and then we got to move on, is that the last time we hired a pretty high-profile coach, it worked out pretty well. Butch Davis, for a little while, and then it was a disaster. And that's what I would imagine would happen here as well. But there is some precedent for us hiring a high-profile coach, and things were looking pretty good there with Butch for a year or two, and then all hell broke loose, and I fear that could happen again. Anywho, our desire to keep 3-point range moving along, clipping along from one point to the next,
Hey,
not
this is
so
big
much,
news.
but this is big news.
We had to tap in.
I agree, but I do think we should move on.
All right, guys. So I am going to switch things up a little bit, and we are going to get into some baseball. That's right. I think
you know how dangerous that is with Kimball. He's basically goes mute when you go baseball, but that's okay. You and I can talk.
No, let's talk. Let's talk. So we are talking now Juan Soto. Okay. So Soto obviously just signed the biggest, right, contract in Major League Sports history, that being the 15-year deal worth $765 million with not the Yankees, but the Mets. That's right. And this is where I have to show, just again, in an effort to be transparent, I am a Red Sox fan. So a bit of this is just me enjoying a player kind of snubbing, their nose at the Yankees. But that being said, I truly do think that this deal, and we saw some of the same like talking points generated with obviously the $700 million, Shohei Ohtani deal, right, with the Dodgers. But I think that this is great for baseball. Let me explain. I think it revitalizes rivalries, right? I mean, this Soto signing supercharges Mets v Yankees competition, right? I don't think that's, and we'll see how it plays out, but I don't think the Yankees can little brother the Mets anymore when they just, stole Juan Soto from them. He literally left the Yankees at the altar. I think it draws national attention. I think it's going to boost viewership, re-energize fans, and I think what it does is it pinpoints one of MLB's biggest problems, which is the lack of stardom, the lack of stars. I think that's one of the things that has plagued the league, as opposed to most prominently, right, the NBA, where you have your Jason Tatum, your Ant, your LeBron. With baseball, it's like, Aaron Judge, Shohei, and for the casual sports fan, those are the guys. There's not as much stardom, and I think deals like this with a young guy, Juan Soto, 26 years old, I think you're going to see, just with the way that he approaches the plate, his mentality, his discipline, his ability to get on base, get walked. I think he's going to have a super, super long career. And again, I think this is great for stardom. I think it also raises the standard for ownership, right? I mean, Steve Cohen's spending. It's going to force other owners to do the same, pull out the big bucks, again, prioritize winning or face scrutiny. And I think it also elevates free agency. Again, I think part of this is the Baseball Players Association more and more encouraging their players to, hey, go with the money, even if it literally is a matter of like a $5 million difference between what the Yankees are offering and a suite for Soto's family. I know that was one of the things that allegedly kind of tipped him towards the Mets. That just shows you that, again, the power is completely in the players' hands, elevates MLB's off-season, keeping the sport in the spotlight, and ensuring these top players are getting the attention they deserve. Again, it's December, and we are talking about MLB rather than NBA or NFL. So overall, I think it's great, but I want to get y'all's thoughts. Are deals like this with Juan Soto, Shohei, is this great for baseball or not so much? What do you guys think?
Well, I know Kimball can't say much, so I will.
Let me just say, before you say anything, Tim, I disagree. That's all I'll say.
But are you not going to be able to follow up on that?
Maybe. Hopefully you'll cover some of my...
All right. Yeah. I'm just glad he's not a Dodger, because I think we just could have canceled the season and just crowned him and just moved on, which, I'm not for that. And I agree that anything that hurts the Yankees is a good thing, even though I was probably a Yankee fan as a kid at one point. But the most interesting thing to me about this, and I don't think this is your point, Kimball, but the most interesting thing to me about this is that he is a Met of all things.
He's a Met.
What do the Mets? What are the Mets known for, Shelby? What are the Mets known for? Kimball can't take shots, so
Being bad.
yeah. I mean, they're kind of
they're
underachieving. They're the Mets, right? They're the other team. They're the other team in New York. I don't think they've won the World Series since 1986, unless I fell asleep somewhere along the way. And so, I think that is the most fascinating part of this deal to me, because I consider the Mets to be one of what we call in the sports world the cursed franchises, the franchises that just can't seem to get it together. And so you're mixing this sublime, this awesome, this perfect baseball player with this awful, imperfect franchise. And I just think, I wonder how that's going to go. When people say, oh, well, he's going to be on the Mets 2039. Well, he's got an opt-out in 5 years.
Yeah.
And,
they have 5 years to figure it out.
And I wonder whether he's going to be on the Mets, in 6 years. But that's, to me, it's always, I don't know whether we've had a situation recently where you had, like when Shohei joined the Dodgers. Yeah, well, he's going to make the Dodgers great. The Dodgers are already good. But this is a situation where you are it's the clash. It is these two very conflicting entities, and who's going to win out? Is Juan Soto going to make the Mets great, or are the Mets going to tear Juan Soto down? I mean, we've just had a great discussion of another cursed franchise, the UNC football.
Mm-hmm.
You could put Patrick Mahomes on UNC football, and they'd finish 8-4.
It's true.
I guarantee it.
It's true.
Add Travis Kelce, give them, I don't know, whatever you want. Chris Jones, put them all on there. UNC would finish 8-4 because they're UNC football. They're cursed. And I mean, you only have to go so far as to Kimball's beloved Jets to see a great example of this. I mean, not that Aaron Rodgers was in his prime when he joined the Jets, but he was still pretty damn good. What's happened since he joined the cursed franchise? Disaster. And I think that my concern with the Soto situation is just that here's this wonderful player who has put himself in a situation where he's put himself on a cursed team, and which force is greater? I don't know, but I think it's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah, I think it's going to be certainly interesting to watch, and I think part of it is, when you look at a guy like Soto, and I mean his just approach, and his offensive abilities. I mean, he's 26 years old, already drawing comparisons right to Ted Williams. Mm-hmm. This is a chance for him to step out in his own rights and make an impact. Like, this is for me at least, the LeBron to Cleveland move. Okay, I'm going to show you how great I am by going to this team and lifting them. That being said, obviously, recognize the differences in being 1 of 5 on a basketball court versus, 1 of 9 in a batting lineup. And it's the, anecdote doesn't directly equivalate there. But I think it, for one, solidifies the Mets as a free agent destination, right? You're going to rival the historically dominant franchises like a Yankees, a Dodgers. It's more interesting. It shows, for a Mets. And obviously,
Agreed.
That being said, I mean, you have...
I don't want him on the Dodgers or the Yankees.
You have Steve Cohen, right? Mm-hmm. That's important. The ownership
right.
and the, wealth there is incredibly important in this. Yeah. But it shows you that, oh, snap, like, these other teams, if they have the money, if they're willing to go, after these players, they can compete. I think one of the things and I thought that this past World Series was incredibly entertaining. I had a great time watching it, but I know a lot of folks that tuned out because, okay, it's Dodgers Yankees again. Mm-hmm. I don't care. Versus, again, Mets, and they are coming off of an incredible season, battling into that, drawing the wild card, and then you just saw them. I mean, they pushed the Yankees to, was it like 5 or 6 games?
I don't know. I don't care about baseball, but yeah.
Okay. I think that this is a great move. You're improving an already playoff caliber roster, right? Addressing the offensive consistency. You put Soto alongside guys like Lindor. And, I mean, you're transforming the Mets, I think, into legitimate World Series contenders. And if you look at the Yankees, like, yes, they're the Yankees. That being said, also, I'm asterisk here. It was 6 games. They pushed the Dodgers to 6 games in the NLCS. Knocked off, again, Central champion Milwaukee Brewers. They crushed the Philadelphia Phillies. But going back to my point, if you take away like Soto, right, from the Yankees and you just look at how they performed in the World Series, especially, and I'm not saying, again, we know that Soto on the defensive side of the ball, that maybe is not as much his strength. But just the defensive errors that the Yankees committed in that World Series and just the way that they completely went cold outside of Soto, the problems for the Yankees are deeper than Soto. And so I think he looked at, on one hand, right, the Yankees. Another hand, he looked at the Mets. It was about a $5 million difference. And he saw more of a future in the Mets than the Yankees.
Cursed franchise.
This is incredible. I love this. But I hear the scouts. He's doing some heavy breathing, some sighing on the other end. Again, I don't know if he can weigh in.
It pains me that I can't say more.
Yeah, let me point out that for anybody who isn't aware of this, that the scout was once involved in an acquisition of Juan Soto to the Padres. So you can understand why has to be circumspect in the situation. But
I actually had a fair amount of say in getting him to the Padres and also the trade with the Yankees, that he went to the Yankees. So that pains me that I can't talk more about this. But let me just say a couple things. Bobby Bonilla and
cursed franchise.
Also, he didn't sign with the Pittsburgh Pirates. He signed with the Mets. It wasn't some great balance of power. And Cohen is an exceptional. I mean, he's probably the richest owner in the game. So his pockets were extraordinarily deep, and it was a situation where this amazing bidding war between the Yankees and Mets. So it went crazy. I don't think this is necessarily going to be good for baseball.
Fair.
Why can you? That's as far as you can go?
Well, I mean, it was some of the points she made. I mean, we already had free agency. Players already had a hell of a lot of leverage in moves. Teams are certainly giving out lots of money, and
it's true.
Yeah, so I don't think this is a sign. And again, if he had signed with the Pirates, if some small market team said it's worth it to us, but it's just another large market team spending or overspending, depending on what you want to call it, and that doesn't really change the face of the game, or even the star structure, or a lot of the things you talked about. I don't think.
Mets.
I just want to see them. I want Steve Cohen to empty his pockets. I want Corbin Burns. I want everybody. I want every great free agent that's out there. Just buy them all, and let's just see what we'll just go Dodgers versus Mets and see who can see whether money truly is the answer to all your, because
I think it's a test, right? You put a Cohen at a Mets. Okay, let's see if we can.
Right.
We can buy a World Series.
Can you break the curse?
Can
we
buy a World Series?
Can you break the curse with Bucks?
And
I don't know.
I'm ready for it.
All right, we're going to move on
guys.
to our last point, and this one too has developed just over the last 24 hours here on the campus of UNC. It's a very Tar Heel centric 3-point range here. As many of you know, the UNC women's soccer program has been a major part of my life for the last, now 20 years. And last night, there was a national championship game involving UNC. And what kind of story in sports do we enjoy the most as writers? Kimball, I'll loop you in as a writer in this case. What's our favorite kind of story to write?
Underdog.
Comeback.
Underdog, exactly. Underdog.
Yes.
And here's we all love the underdog story. And the crazy part of last night, it struck me, was this, that the greatest dynasty in the history of college sports, the UNC women's soccer team, 22 national championships before last night, they began this season as an underdog. Can you imagine? I could not have imagined 10 years ago when they were at the end of their sort of dynastic run that there would ever come a time when UNC would be considered an underdog. I was just down at the soccer center today and talking to our brand new newly minted coach, full-time non-interim coach, Damon Nahas, and we were reviewing the season. What has happened? I know you remember this because you wrote a story about it, Shelby, in the Daily Tar Heel at the end of last season when there was a total mutiny.
Oh, yeah.
And
bad.
9 players transferred, 11 players went pro. Some of those were really just transferring out of the program to go pro, let's face it. And so there was a total mutiny. And UNC last spring had 12 players left on the roster. 12 total.
Yep. I mean, they're pulling up managers and
Three
club
of them
players
were from the club team, and one of them was a manager.
Yeah.
So there were only 8 players left off last year's roster.
They couldn't scrimmage.
They couldn't scrimmage. They played spring games against Catawba and Liberty, and they couldn't win those games because they were too tired. They didn't have any subs. And I thought, this is the greatest dynasty in history of college sports. This is what they've come to. And we all wondered, what's going to happen? What is going to happen with this team? And then we all said, well, at least they still have the greatest coach in the history of college sports, or women's soccer at least. And then 4 days before the season starts, he retires.
Although Dorrance would tell you that Nahas is a better coach
He
than
would
him.
tell you that.
Yes.
So basically we have a team that had 12 players, including managers and club players, in the spring. And then a team that loses its coach 4 days before the season starts. And they are handed an interim coach, and he was only an interim coach. And it's like, okay, here you go.
Yep.
What do you? And a lot of us in that room, and I will shout out to a good friend of mine whose name I won't reveal, but he texted me last night and he said, I remember having lunch. You were there. I remember having lunch.
Yes, I know who we're talking about. Okay,
I remember having lunch with as this was all going on.
He's
thinking,
a good friend of former Tar Heel.
Yeah, friend of the program. He said, we won't make the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
I'm worried that we're going to make the NCAA tournament next year.
Right, he ate his words last night.
And,
that's for sure.
And this team that had 12 players, including club managers in the spring, won the national championship last night. It can only be described as an underdog story in my mind. I mean, there was no business. I spoke to Trinity Armstrong, one of our best players, this morning, and she said when the ball
Freshman defender.
when the ball went out of bounds, and then she knew it was over, she just fell to her knees and said, "There's no way," because she knew from whence they'd come, that they had pulled this off. And I am still, I have to admit, still stunned thinking back to, we were all at Anson Dorrance's retirement press conference back in August, and while we may not have been as openly wrong as our friend and colleague, we all thought the same thing. We all wondered what could possibly come of this. And there's just so many wonderful stories. Just spending an hour down there this morning and realizing that this is how these things happen. That the game winning goal was scored by Liv Thomas, who was injured for most of the season.
Yeah, she missed about a month.
She was gone for most of the season, and in the ACC semifinal against Duke, she took one of a rare free kick. She doesn't take free kicks very much, but she took a free kick in that game from the same spot that she took in the national title game last night. And she sailed it out of the stadium.
Yep.
It was so far off that it actually left the confines of the stadium.
Nahas joked on in the press conference last night that it's still flying around in the air somewhere. But she told me, and I think I referenced this in my my post game story for the News and Observer. I mean, that's something that she had been working on in practice since that point, just after every single practice, and was just so embarrassed by that free kick against Duke.
As soon as that happened, she and Trinity was the one who actually told me the story. She and Trinity started working on free kicks. From that very spot where they took the free kick last night, the game winner, the one and only goal. And Trinity would work on a free kick to the near post, and Liv would work on a free kick to the far post.
Yep.
That's what they did. That was their comfort zone. And so they each worked on that just over and over. They just went one back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
And in the game last night, it was Trinity right before Liv took that free kick, which they almost pulled her for, by the way.
Oh, Trinity told me that she was going to take the free kick.
Yes.
And then she looked at Liv, and Liv basically just stared back at her, and Trinity knew, you're taking, all right, you're taking it.
And she told her, you can do it.
And then she buried it.
Yep.
That's
great moment.
It's a crazy season. I'm going to have to sum it up in the Carolina Alumni Review sometime in the next few days. And yeah, it's been the bottom line is that Carolina women's soccer became an underdog story, and they finished it off. And what a crazy season it's been. And now,
okay,
go ahead.
Mr. Harvey, let's have the rest of the story. Let's have the story about we spent all our NIL money on bringing in 10 new soccer players this fall and we had the highest paid team in the NCAA, and that's why we couldn't afford a center in basketball. Is that what happened?
No,
there's got to be more
not
to
at all.
Where the players come from.
Their NIL is miserable. Just like
if you talk to
for
anyone around the
years
program,
now,
I mean, they don't have money to pay players.
Anson will tell you that for years now, last few years they have recruited players who have agreed to come here, and then Florida State has swooped in at the last minute and just bought them.
Wow! But did they not add talent? I mean, they must have added a lot of talent. I mean, or
they did.
Had still a good season.
They added some talent, including the Trinity, who we've been talking about, who is just a sublime center back.
Defender.
Who but even her story, I mean, it's just crazy. She had a bout of anemia. Have you heard about all this? She had a bout of anemia to the point where she didn't think she was going to be able to come. She thought she was going to have to quit soccer. And she ended up being the Rock of Gibraltar on our back line this year. We had one returning starter. One.
Elgin, right?
Right.
Yep.
One returning starter from last year. And the player who ended up being our star, Kate Fossey, for years has been underachieving. She's just struggled with her confidence. I think she scored 4 goals in two seasons, and then she led the nation with 20 goals this year. I mean, it was just
breakout.
It was just one of those things that I know it's cliche to say, but if you wrote it up and sent it into Hollywood, they'd say, "No way, that ain't happening."
Well, it's your next movie, Tim Crothers.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
This is the next Queen of Cotway.
Yeah. In
a sense. But yeah, no, 16 new players specifically. If I have my numbers right, 6 transfers, 9 freshmen, 1 player. Shout out Avery Look from Chapel Hill High School, pulled up from the club soccer team.
Yeah. They had no business doing what they did. And granted, there was some, we've talked about how luck might play a role in these stories sometimes. And yes, they were fortunate that their kryptonite, Florida State, was knocked out in the same bracket as they are.
Oh, I know they were hyped about that.
Earlier in the tournament, which was huge because that allowed them to play all of their games either at home or right down the road here in Cary. And that that was huge. But yeah, it was including a 3-0 shellacking of the team down the road here at Duke in the semifinals. It was just the most cathartic season you could ever imagine. And now we have that's one coach that we do know we have that has been recently hired that I think we're going to be in good shape.
Mm-hmm. First UNC coach to lead his team to a national championship since
First coach to lead his team? What do you
His team to a national championship, in his first year, or in their first year since
Aaron Matson.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's another one we're in good shape of. The other thing I think is funny is how often does an interim coach win a national championship?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but when they announced interim, when they're, so obviously, after the game, right, I'm on the field and they are naming every single player on the roster and giving them their trophy, and then they name, interim head coach Damon Nahas. So we're all looking around like, all right, what's up? So I think at that point you kind of knew, and just to, go into how it played out, right? So, I'm on the field and trying to take in the scenery and whatever. And obviously, I'm doing my job as a reporter. So I approach, Bubba Cunningham and Chancellor Lee Roberts and chat with them and ask them, hey, anything for me on football? And no, and shoot, thought I'd ask, haha, but gotta shoot your shot, right? But I know that Roberts, this was after the game, and he said that in terms of the soccer coach, though, they would have an announcement imminently, and it's like, all right, dude. I mean,
do you know what actually happened?
I think we know. I do know what happened. So, according to Nahas and the players, essentially what happened was athletic director Bubba Cunningham approached Nahas. I think it was earlier on Monday.
It was actually Sunday. It was actually Sunday. At the team hotel. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, Nahas switched up then, I fear, because he did tell us last night that it was earlier that day.
Yeah, I mean, the story I got is that yes, Bubba came to the team hotel Sunday, the day before the game, and offered him the job, and then Damon had to decide, do I share this with my players? All year long, they've been motivated by this idea that it's wrong that their coach is has this interim tag on him. And so I think very smartly, Damon said, you know what? I'm not going to share this with my players until after the game because they've been motivated by this all year long. Why not be motivated for it for one more game? And so he kept it in-house just between him and his assistant. And then he announced it to the team after the game in the post-game huddle. He told them, "Oh, well, yeah, by the way, I'm the coach," and they all went crazy. So yeah, that's a good story. It's those are the stories that we live for as writers, and it's a fun little postscript to what's been an amazing dynasty. We covered it, Kimball.
Absolutely.
Got it. All right. Producer, anything new on the Belichick watch? Everything's still the same? Okay. Well, then I think we're good for this evening. We will see you again in January. This is the beginning of our holiday break, and I hope everybody out there has a great holiday. And happy holidays. But yes, it's been a blessing. We've enjoyed our time here and getting this thing rolling again in 2024, and we look forward to keeping it rolling in 2025. For the scout, Kimball Crosley, and the prospect, Shelby Swanson, I'm Tim Crothers, pulling up from deep and swish.